Hey, this is Brian here, Slackananda. Thought I'd try to make a video about something other than a stupid sing-along, and I'm distressed by what's going on in Puerto Rico, obviously, and I'm not even going to get into Puerto Rico versus NFL in terms of percentage of national consciousness in America. That's obvious what that is. It's a toilet. This is unstaged. I'm just making a video, so maybe I'm going to post it, maybe not. I have no real determination to do so. But what I wanted to get at, and it's like I almost wanted to write like these big essays about it. Like it could have almost been a book about like decentralization bad, don't do it, this is what happens. And it's kind of along the lines of what do they call it in business, like just-in-time inventory. Like you make a fraction more money if you don't have parts sitting in your warehouse for 6 months, but if they arrive 24 hours before they're actually needed on the assembly line. And I think we've got like this whole just-in-time mentality for our whole culture, you know. It's just like if the gas gets to the station like just a day before I go there to buy it, like that's good. And with all of our supplies and with everything in terms of centralization, you know, we expect that things will be on the shelves or in the tanks at the pumps when we go, and usually they are. You know, but then all of a sudden there's a run. I mean, I experienced that in the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey, where there was this like absolutely like inexplicable run on gas. Like where like one day there was gas. You could drive into any gas station just like you normally do. There's always an open pump, you know. And then the next day, there were lines 4 blocks long. It's like everyone went completely apeshit. Like, holy shit, the gas is running out. Like, I got to get mine. I got to grab mine. I got to get my centralized supply. I got to fill up my own tank. And, you know, and a few days later, that artificial panic cleared and there's gas. And now everybody buys gas like normal. The price went up. Now it's dropping back down again. So we're just kind of like, slip back into the usual sort of coma of just driving to work every day. But then when's that next panic going to come? And the fact is that we depend on gasoline to be delivered to our pumps in regular quantity. I live 9 miles away from where I work. I used to ride my bike more than that to work each way. That was actually before I owned a car. I didn't have a driver's license until I was 30. So that was just the way it was. It didn't bother me none. Well, now I have succumbed to the way that it is. I have a car. I drive to work 9 miles each way every day. And if you think this lard ass is riding 18 miles bicycle round trip through traffic to work, you're fucking crazy. Oh. So basically, if I don't have gas in my car, it's like I can't get to my livelihood. Now, if I had to cope with that situation for long enough, I could regroup. I could get back in shape. You know, I could do it. Maybe I should. You know, maybe I should move closer to work. But what are the chances that my job is going to be my job for like years to come? Should I really go that far out of my way to base my entire lifestyle on my job? You know, like just to build my life around my job. I've done that before. I worked for Comcast, and I did indeed do that. I moved to within 1 mile of work so I could go home on my lunches and eat and take a 30-minute rejuvenating meditative nap and go back to work. And you know what happened? Comcast laid me off when they centralized their dispatch offices. I was a dispatcher. I was a local dispatcher. I worked with local technicians. The people that I called up on the radio and said, man, you got to go do this. And they said, well, my boss said this. And I said, well, this is a bigger priority for this and this and this reason, and got him to go take care of the outage. Those are people I saw face to face. Those are people I knew. And they centralized that into, you know, there's like 1 or 2 Comcast dispatch centers in Florida. And those people that are dispatching the technicians, they've never seen face to face in their life. So it's just like an increasing sense of alienation throughout, you know, society, you know, whatever. So I kind of have a funny story about, I think it's a funny story. And this person is actually a Facebook friend of mine currently. I'm not going to say his name. Anyway, he was a very senior maintenance technician at Comcast, and I was initially a maintenance technician dispatcher before I ended up being, before they cut that position because they regionalized maintenance dispatch first. Then they put me into fulfillment dispatching, which is like regarding technicians coming out to your house as opposed to the ones fixing outages. And then eventually they regionalized that too. So I started out at a high level at Comcast, and they demoted me a couple times and then laid me off. So anyway, when I was still a maintenance dispatcher, there was a dispute with one of the technicians. It's a high pressure situation. As a dispatcher, I've got customers. There's all kinds of pressure. This is an outage. You've got to get this taken care of. And the people who fix those outages, well, they don't just sit around waiting for an outage to happen. They have a lot of work to do all the time in terms of routine maintenance. And then when the emergency comes up, they're the ones that have to go fix it. So when I say there's an emergency, they're like, look, I've got this important maintenance work to do. They're not eager to run off at anything I have to say. So we had a dispute. He was doing maintenance. I had an outage. We had to have a discussion about it, and he eventually went and fixed the outage. And then later I saw him back in the office, and he came up to me. He's like, you know what? Like, you haven't been here that long, and like, you don't understand what we have to deal with out there. And for me to have to put up with the fuck from a pencil pusher like you. And I just looked at him, and I started laughing. That was the funniest thing. Like, he was going to call me the worst name in the world, and he came up with pencil pusher. It still cracks me up. And I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed for like 20 seconds. And then he started to smile, and he just like clapped me on the shoulder, turned around, and walked out of there. And that was the end of that. And we got fine after that, which isn't to say we never had another disagreement again. But, like, that's the personal touch. That interaction could have never happened with I am operator 40C3, and I direct you to now go take care of this outage in node, blah, blah, blah. So, anyway, it's kind of a side note. Puerto Rico, centralization. Driverless cars, don't get me started on driverless cars, because you know what happened in Puerto Rico? The whole electrical grid, the cell towers, everything is like wiped out. And if they were depending on self-driving cars, well, even their driving, driver-powered cars aren't getting anywhere without fuel, but at least if they have a little fuel, they're not dependent on a cell network to navigate them through some completely destroyed infrastructure with trees across the road that haven't been mapped yet, because things change, and the first car I ended up owning was a Jeep Cherokee. It was a 95 Jeep Cherokee, and I love that car. I'm kind of sorry I lost it. It's my own fault. It's gone, but you know what? It had manual locks for everything. Had a key. If the battery were completely dead, I could lock and unlock all. Well, I don't know that the back doors had key. Okay, but at least the hatchback and the two front doors, I could lock and unlock with a key. Didn't matter. I could roll the windows up and down. It did not matter if the battery is dead. And now I have this 2010 Toyota Scion. And during a recent period of difficulty in my life when I was homeless and living out of the thing, had everything I owned in the car, and sometimes couldn't afford gas. And anyway, and the battery went dead. I could not lock the doors. Could not open the hatchback. The hatchback has no key. If you do not have power in the car, you cannot open the hatchback. And that is That is wrong. Like, that is, like, tremendously, like, inconvenient. So if your battery dies while the hatchback is unlocked and you have to leave your vehicle with everything you own inside to go seek for fuel or some kind of way to get that thing back on the road, and you cannot secure the vehicle. Like, that is wrong. That is like, oh, we've got power everything. That's great. No, it's bad. It is bad. That is very bad. That is a step backwards. And this whole move towards driverless cars is a step backwards in the same direction. I mean, just think about The Matrix, right? Silly movie, right? Bunch of people sitting around in little baskets being batteries for aliens while their bodies are all plugged up. Well, what do you want with driverless cars? Eventually, they're just going to put us in wheelchairs when we're 2 years old, and we'll sit in front of our TVs at home. Then our automated wheelchairs will drive us into our automated cars and drive us to our automated jobs, where we'll just stare at screens there while we stare at screens in the car. And eventually, we'll do nothing but stare at screens, and then we might as well just be unconscious in baskets while little robot drones fly us around until Morpheus unplugs us and sends us down the toilet chute. Shit, okay, I'm not trying to laugh here. This is a spontaneous video. I didn't write no script. I'm just going off. But I got shit to say. I like talking to people. I do it all day at my job. Now I just live in a hotel room and get drunk and watch TV. I'm not even really that buzzed right now. Well, here, let's for record purposes, like, okay, do you see? That's barely a dent in a bottle of Kraken. And that's over the last 3 hours. I've been having fun. I've been posting on Facebook. I'm doing this and that. You know, look at some of my recent posts for context. Is this whole, like, video ramble. And hell, it's already like 11 and a half minutes. It's going to take me 4 hours to upload on my utter crap Wi-Fi connection that I actually have to pay extra for. Can you believe this? Like the hotel I stay at? The Wi-Fi that comes with the room is like barely enough to get your Gmail to load after 4 minutes. You actually have to pay $25 a month for like Wi-Fi that could like stream Netflix pretty well with just a few breaks, or, you know, anyway, so where was I going with that? But, oh, well, centralization, Puerto Rico, and, you know, the mayor of San Juan has been kind of a media figure lately, and she's actually been directly attacked by Trump, who I don't really care to talk that much about, but I like the mayor of San Juan. She has cool glasses, and she's articulate and impassioned, and she was talking about, you know, rebuilding Puerto Rico, how, like, when we have, like, street lights, they should be solar powered, they should be self-contained, and it's like, oh, hell yeah. Like, you know what, like, I mean, like, granted, in a hurricane, like, maybe solar powered street lights get torn down, you know, but that's like on a one-at-a-time basis. So say you have 100,000 solar-powered streetlights and 50,000 of them are destroyed by a hurricane. Well, that's pretty devastating, but you still have 50,000 streetlights that are working compared to when the whole electrical grid is wiped out and there's nothing working at all whatsoever. And then there's the whole thing about all of the supplies. What is it? 9,600 shipping cargo containers at the port of San Juan that are just sitting there because the drivers are AWOL. There's no gas for their trucks. Nobody can move those supplies. It's like they're too centralized. And this gets back to the earlier point, you know, I was talking about. It's just like everything has worked so well for long enough. Hell, like I thought the world was going to end in the 80s. And, like, here we are, just like, well, I mean, nothing bad's happened yet, so I guess nothing bad will ever happen, so I might as well just give in and go to sleep and allow this automated centralism to, like, continue forever. Well, something bad eventually, like, will happen. I mean, it has happened in Puerto Rico, and it's going to happen in other places, too. And, you know what, like, I have... Here's a shameful admission. I have some sort of sympathy for the whole kind of prepper mentality, you know? Okay, now that's like synonymous with like Alex Jones batshit crazy like lunatics, you know, and the whole freaking point? And then they want to sell you this food in buckets that last for 25 years. Well, what about like rotation? And I worked in a restaurant, you understand, like rotation, you know? Like, I don't need food with more than a shelf life of a year. What if I had like a 1-year food supply and like rotated it? And instead of buying groceries this week for this week, I just rotated my food and ate my food. So you eat your food before it expires, you keep replenishing it, shit goes to hell, you hold tight for a year and see what happens, you know? And if shit's fucked up for a year, shit's going to be fucked up for a long time probably, you know? But wouldn't it be nice to have like a year? I mean, people talk about having like a week of supplies. Or like, what about water? You know, I don't want to keep 5 crates of bottled water. I don't want to keep, 20 gallons of bottled water in my room and even keep rotating that. But I feel like I'm getting off track here, but you know what? Like, I live in a box. I flip a switch, the light comes on. I pull the faucet, water comes out. Go to the grocery store, there's food on the shelves. I go to the gas station, there's gas there. Except that one night out of the blue when there was like no gas to be had. And so, I don't know. So what's my point? Centralization, bad. Self-driving cars, bad. I feel like I need to wind this up. 16 minutes. It's a good first video. Maybe I've made my point. Maybe somebody will like this. Maybe somebody will encourage me to continue. I mean, I guess I could continue if I really wanted to, but I don't care. I like watching TV. I have one. This has amused me for now, and I'm going to wind it down, but I'm just going to hope that I have made my point about over-centralization, and like every single thing that we think is a technological development is not necessarily good. Power locks on a car are demonstrably bad. It reduces the utility of your car in a scenario when less than ideal circumstances exist. And that's life. Life is a series of dealing with less than ideal circumstances interspersed with enjoying life when it's good with your loved ones and the things you have in your life that are good. But life cannot be good for very long or very thoroughly or very deep if you know that you are on the verge of a disaster, and we keep embracing choices that lead us closer and closer and closer to a horrendous disaster, to the point where when our car runs out of gas and battery, we cannot even secure it for a moment. I mean, sure, someone could break the glass of your locked car and steal your shit. But how much more likely is it when they can just walk up and open the door and carry out anything they want? At least if they have to break the glass, at least they have to make a commitment to being that sort of evil bastard. You know, my mom always said, bless her heart, she said, locks keep honest people honest. And I think locks keep mostly honest people semi-honest would be the more honest truth of that. But the fact of the matter is that for every 10 people that would possibly walk away with an unlocked bicycle, there's only one person who would go to the length to spray Freon on the kryptonite and hammer it with a hammer to break the fucker and steal your bike. So basically, by locking your bike, you're not really protecting it from theft. You're just protecting it from the lowest common denominator of opportunistic thieves. And that's also from my point, but let's just stay positive. There's a video. You got this far. You watched it. I am so happy. And you know what? I think I'm going to do more of these. And if they don't go up on YouTube, they're at least going to go into my video archive and be part of my digital legacy, of which I am a pioneer. More on that later. Thanks for listening. Stay decentralized!